order this meeting of the Tacoma Park City Council. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Kovar,
Here.
Councilmember Dabala, Councilmember Costick,
Here.
Councilmember Siemens,
Present.
Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Searcy,
Here.
Mayor Stewart.
Here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. This is a special session of our City Council tonight because we had two voting items that were time sensitive that we want to take up this evening. And since we had already scheduled a meeting with our D20 to begin in a little bit, and I knew all our council members were free, we scheduled our meeting for this evening. So tonight we have two voting items: a resolution providing for an appointment to the Task Force on Sustainable Banking and Investments, and an ordinance amending the annual budget in order to provide additional compensation to city employees in recognition of their efforts during the last year. Both items are posted on the city website. We have public comments on the voting items, and I believe one person signed up for the budget ordinance. I'm looking for the city clerk. Is he with us now?
I'm here.
Oh, great. All right, you're on.
Okay. Let me begin by verifying 4 points. I'm Tom Gagliardo. I'm here to speak on the city workers' compensation. Let me begin by verifying 4 points. One, I trust you consider yourself, as I do, a progressive city council. If that's wrong, please correct me. Two, I understand that the mayor and council are proposing a $2,500 one-time payment to all staff because of their contributions during COVID. If that's wrong, please tell me. Three, it appears this bonus will be funded by federal funds. If that's wrong, please tell me. And four, I also understand that the one-time payment for 80 people who serve our needs as a community and who are represented by AFSCME Local 3399 is contingent on them accepting the 1.8% across the board increase that union workers have previously been unwilling to accept. And if that's wrong, please correct me. Also, before continuing, let me note that I defer to the city workers and their leadership. There are many reasons why a negotiator would accept your offer, and I'm not privy to all the factors that AFSCME negotiators must consider in deciding what is acceptable. If they accept your terms, I have nothing further to say. But at this point, I'm compelled to note that your approach to collective bargaining is not what I, and I suspect many others in this community, expect from progressive leadership. To add to the points I made at previous meetings and in emails to each of you, let me say, first, people can be manipulated and controlled, not only with sticks, but with carrots. Second, offering $2,500 just short of 3 weeks before Christmas can easily be seen as a carrot intended to exert maximum pressure on AFSCME represented workers to accept your take it or leave it 1.8% increase they have heretofore been unwilling to accept. Is this view cynical or is it perceptive? Finally, when combined with the one-time payment, these workers, according to some of you, will get more than the percentage increase they have been seeking, but that's not the whole story. The one-time payment obviously will not exist next year or thereafter. So for a year or so, you can say that they got more than was asked for, but thereafter their wages will fail to keep pace with inflation, which now appears to be the continuing state of affairs. Equity for low-income workers, equity for people of color begins at home. As progressives, you agree with that, don't you? Now, I'd really like once in the limited amount of time I have left on this earth to get a response to a question that I asked the mayor and council. You can do it now, you can do it later, you can do it in an email, but for once, please answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the public comments we have this evening. We'll go now to our voting items for tonight. The first is a resolution providing for appointment to the Task Force on Sustainable Banking and Investments. This task force, as you know, we appointed, I think it was last month, and they're beginning their work right away. Unfortunately, one of the task force members, we were just informed of this, I believe it was Monday, that Jay Levy, the chair of the Nuclear Free Tacoma Park Committee, is unable to serve and has resigned. And so we have a resolution to substitute Mr. Levy with Paul Guntner, another member of the committee, to serve on the task force. And we wanted to do this right away because the task force has already started getting their work done. So would someone please move this resolution? Sorry. Councilmember Kovar, Councilwoman Costick, second. Any questions? No, seeing none, will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Kovar,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala,
Yes.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. All right, our second voting item this evening, all right, let me pull it up, is our ordinance amending the annual budget in order to provide additional compensation to city employees. As I said in the cover sheet, this is a $2,500 one-time bonus to be paid to employees. And the timing is an appropriation of $535,000. Just to answer the question that was before, this does not come out of ARPA funds. To answer that question. In addition, to answer the other question before, because this is a payment, it needs to be accepted by both of our unions, both Local 400 and our ASME 399. We do have the collective bargaining mediation continuing with our ASME local. And so I'd like to have that process continue moving forward. And so we wanted to do this appropriation this evening because we do want to recognize the work of our employees, as well as recognize that a number of the issues that have been raised these last few months by the ASME union and others about the times we're living in, the uncertainty. And we felt that this was the appropriate move to do before the end of the year. And so with that, I will ask if anyone would like to move this ordinance.
I'll move it.
Councilmember Siemens movement. Do I have a second? Councilwoman Costick. Great. Any other questions or? Councilmember Siemens, is that still a hand up or are you?
Yeah, that's a hand up to make a comment.
Mhm.
I just wanted to answer one other question that we received tonight, and that is, the concern that inflation is rising, and we don't know how this may affect the future pay for employees. And I'd just like to remind people that the council has initiated a analysis of market rates for our workers, and that the results of that should help us to determine whether we are paying the fair and equitable amounts for the various classes of jobs that we have here in the city.
Councilmember Kovar.
Thank you. Excuse me. Just a few comments about this. Number one, I do want to follow on with what my colleague Councilmember Siemens just mentioned, so that this is not a situation where if the 1.8% were accepted along with this lump sum, that would be all there would be. As Councilmember Siemens mentioned, there's at least the potential for further changes once the analysis is done through this compensation study. And people may recall we approved the contract for that on November 10th, and it's estimated to be an approximately 12-week process. You can look at the mapping out of the 12 weeks or so. And so that would end up being completed, if all goes according to plan, in the first quarter of next year, 2022. So we'll have the findings and the data and so on from that study relatively soon, a few months from now. So that's one thing. And as Councilmember Siemens also said, we'll know more about inflation at that point. I do want to just mention in terms of what Mr. Gagliardo said, and number one, I would say, I'm sure he would agree that I have answered him plenty of times, both in emails and sometimes here, and happy to do that again. The mayor did respond. She said it's not ARPA funds, it's not federal funds at all. It's city funds. It's coming from city funds. So that's how that part of it is being done. And I would say, as I pointed this out in the material that I sent around, that for a number of the people on the city payroll who are AFSCME members, the effective increase that they would get exceeds the level that they were seeking. For those who were more highly compensated, it would be a little bit less because we are giving them a flat rate. Now, I know some people said they would rather have us keep pace with inflation, and that's certainly an argument. I understand that argument. If you give everybody the same percentage increase, then wealthier people get a bigger boost than those who are less well compensated. That doesn't mean that's wrong either. That's just two different ways of looking at it. But to me, what this proposal offers is a way to make sure, number one, that there's something more than what the retroactive 1.8 provides as we head into the holidays. And that will be a bigger chunk of money that people will get if they're just getting a percentage increase over the next month. So I think that seems important. And then doing that, but knowing that at most another 2 to 3 months after that, we'll have this additional data and we can look at it again. And one last point I'll just mention, we're in a 3-year collective bargaining period. And while most of the issues in that agreement remain the same for the 3 years, the one piece that's subject to change in the reopener negotiation is the wages. And so we're in the second, right now, year of the 3 years. And whenever this gets completed, we'll then go into the third year soon afterwards. And there will be negotiations again on the reopening negotiations for the wages at that point. So there's a lot that will be taking place. I don't see this as an action we take today and then that's just it. To me, this is a way forward with the understanding that there could be further adjustments in the future depending on how things play out. And so I just wanted to let folks understand that from that perspective, I think this makes sense, not as the be all and the end all, and then we just walk away and so on, but that we do this and then in the future, we see what else could make sense depending on how the various other factors I've mentioned unfold. Thank you.
Councilwoman Dabala.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify for myself and everybody else, this ordinance is about allocating budget funds it's not about personnel issues, personnel decisions or union negotiations or any of these other things. It's about allocating a budget amount to allow for certain things to take place. And knowing that there's all what Councilmember Kovar just said. I'm right about that, I think. Yeah. And so the other point I wanted to make is that is again, to make sure that I understand this, that the point is well taken, that we have non-management workers at the lower end of the pay scale in 2 unions and also some who are not in either union. So these are 3 groups of people who are not management, who work for the city and do an amazing amount of work for us. So for me, that is how I'm looking at it. Just to put it in context, I'm reading the first words. This is an ordinance that allocates a budget amount, and so that's really how I'm focused on it. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, not seeing any. I also want to say, given that the federal funds were raised, that, we will be, when we return in January, looking at allocating ARPA funds and evaluating them, as well as looking at any additional money that may go to frontline workers as we consider the overall spending of those funds. So those are potentially additional funds that we will be looking at in January. Councilmember Kovar, did you raise your hand? Did you want to say something else? I see.
Just on
Councilmember
that point,
Kovar and
just on
Dabala
that-
still the hands up.
just on that point, I think, if I'm correct about this, ARPA funds, though they may be available, cannot be used for
I was just going to
permanent
say that.
salary
That is
increases.
not exactly.
Okay. Or
And-
for anything other than frontline workers.
I was,
right?
yeah, I was
Okay.
getting there. I was going to say, I
thought
want
you
to
were wrapping up.
clarify, and we've done this this fall, talking about the ARPA funds, and we will talk about that again in January. But thank you very much, Councilmember Kovar. ARPA funding cannot be used for salaries or ongoing expenses. And if it's used to compensate employees, there's a definition of the employees that we can compensate for our frontline workers. So we'll be looking at that with all the other proposals that have come in regarding the spending of the ARPA dollars. So again, I just want to say thank you to all our employees. We did really want to do this for people, as we saw that there's been a lot of things that have been very unpredictable in the last 20 months, but in particular, looking at these last few months. And again, want to thank the ASME representatives who have raised issues and championed the needs of our staff. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to do this before the end of the year. So with that, I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
All right, Councilmember Kovar.
Aye.
Councilmember Dabala,
Yes.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. All right, I think those are all the items for our meeting this evening. For at least this portion of the meeting, we will adjourn and then come back again at 7 p.m. for our annual meeting with our D20 delegation. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in a little bit.